The uneven patches of skin acted like tendrils gripping his exposed skull. "I don't think you're a mad woman," he smiled. His voice was high, almost a squeak. His eyes were small and spaced apart. He was a short, pudgy man, kneading his ball cap between his hands. "It's just that there are going to be sacrifices, you know?" Jamie only nodded and told him to come inside. She sat down, and he walked around the apartment, kicking up the takeout containers and old clothes littering the floor. He looked at her TV. The news continued to cover the updates from Marble Springs, as every month seemed to bring new layers of awful to the surface. This evening focused on the ever-expanding list of Rick Dixon's victims. Fortunate timing, Tim mused. No one even noticed the explosion at Houseman Hill. How could they? Gators and killers and ghosts, oh my. "Houseman Hill?" Jamie asked. "I was Tim," he said, turning away from the TV. "And you were? Jamie?" she whispered. "You want to know why?" he asked. "Yes." Jamie started to cry. The sob, loud, pathetic sobs that left mucus running from her nose and tears pouring from her eyes. She fell to the floor and begged him. She begged him to tell her why. "Are you ready?" he asked. He needed to move. When Tim moved into the apartment, the neighborhood was undergoing gentrification. The little businesses and the spray-painted murals were burned away and replaced with clean glass and white stone. No one came. The stores closed. New businesses moved in, and the spray-painted murals returned. New people came. They were younger and looked different from Tim. They dressed different and walked without purpose. They called to each other in the street, and Tim kept his head down, defiant. Why couldn't they walk like him? Why couldn't they talk quietly on their phones and just go where they needed to go? Probably living on welfare. Probably never contribute a cent. He worked late. Tim worked late nearly 6 days a week now. He had a new boss, a younger boss. The new boss said everyone needed to do his or her share. Money was tight. No raises. A lot of senior people disappeared from his commute, and a lot of new young faces took their place. So Tim worked late. They needed to see his value. He was sure they did. He worked late nearly every night now, after all. The stairway to his third-floor apartment rattled. He sometimes grabbed the railings and stood still for several seconds, as if his grip would stop the metal staircase and concrete steps from collapsing into a heap. At the top, he could see no man's land. No man's land was meant to be a slice of nature. A little stretch of grass and a quaint, bubbling creek between his apartment complex and the one next door. In reality, it was a stagnant stream choked with trash and dead tree limb. Tonight, Tim glimpsed movement in no man's land. In a patch of ground by the stream, bare and muddy, stood a circle of people. They wore heavy coats and their faces were wrong. They were wearing masks. The circle widened as the people stepped back. Tim couldn't make out the genders or race. There was just a circle of masked people. 2 of them stepped forward, one in a plastic clown mask and the other wearing a rubber skull mask. He could see their shoulders rise and fall and the faint wisps of breath in the cold air. A blade gleamed and one dove for the other. They fell to the ground, wrapped round each other. The scene was almost intimate. Go inside, Tim thought. Go inside. What are you doing? The one with the clown mask gasped and groaned almost like a hiccup. He pulled himself in a fetal position. The one in the skull mask stood. Another from the circle, this one wearing a plastic Lone Ranger mask, walked to the figure on the ground and removed the mask. Through the swollen eye and bleeding nose, Tim could tell it was a young man. Maybe this was one of the loud ones on the street yelling in his phone. And walking without purpose, they descended on him. Tim gripped both hands on the railing. Were they stripping his clothes? Yes, but they were tearing at him. He saw more flashes, more blades reflecting the outside lights. They killed the figure on the ground. Aside from grunts and exhausted breathing, they made no noise. Go. Inside. Lone Ranger Mask nudged a man in a wolf mask. Wolfman looked at Tim. He sees me. Wolfman tilted his head slightly. Wolfman pointed at Tim. Tim backed to the door and struggled with his shaking hands to put the key in the lock. When he opened the door, he dashed inside. As he closed it, he saw there were no masked men in no man's land. Tim washed his hands, turning the water hotter and hotter. He made sure the blinds were closed. He stood by the door for 3 minutes before he peeped through the hole. No one there. He stared at his phone. You should call 911, right? You have to tell someone, Popo 5. Tim turned on the TV and watched a show about rival teams flipping houses for people in need. Maybe you shouldn't be involved. Tim stood up and paced the room. He looked at his phone and typed 911 before deleting the digits again. Tim sat down on the couch and eventually fell asleep. When he woke up, he went about his morning routine. He turned on the news and nodded his head in agreement with the nice blonde woman who lamented the state of the country. She does seem nice. He let his coffee cool and downed his lukewarm cup of heavily creamed and sugared drink. He almost forgot until the knock on the door. His breath came in quick successions, like when the man with dark skin and a hoodie had asked him for directions the other day. Tim didn't stop. He'd seen the news. He just ignored the man and hurried home. Do you know if I'm close, Preston? You can just point. The man called, but Tim wouldn't slow down. Looking in the peephole, he saw a fisheye view of a smiling man in a nice white shirt and black tie. A nice white man, just like Tim. He opened the door. Yes? Tim asked. Hello, sir? Do you have a minute to talk about Jesus? The man asked, holding his Bible to his chest with one arm. Oh, actually, no, Tim said. I need to head to work. Getting an early start. Yes, the smiling man said. Tim started to shut the door when the smiling man's foot caught it. We aren't used to being seen, the smiling man said. What did you think? What do I think? Tim asked, trying to push the door. The man pushed the door open, clapped a hand on Tim's shoulder and gave a gentle squeeze. Did you like it? What you saw, Tim stuttered and fell back, landing on his ass. The man clutched his Bible and grinned, nodding to Tim as he stepped out of the apartment, shut the door and left. Tim pissed himself. He felt chilled by the time he stood and changed his pants. He was already an hour late when he opened the door again. The man with the Bible was gone. A plastic Lone Ranger mask sat on Tim's welcome mat. You seem distracted today, Mr. Prater asked. Sorry, Mr. Prater, but I've been working. I've been working hard. Everything on Smith Love's account is ready to go live. That's great. That's great. Look, I just wanted to give you a heads up that performance reviews are coming up. Mr. Prater looked like a kid wearing his father's suit. Everyone else's desk were piles of papers and sprinklings of post-it notes to keep things in order. Mr. Prater's desk was clean and free of any papers. Tim could almost see himself in the exposed surface. That's good. Like I said, I've been working hard. You aren't worried? Mr. Prater asked. Well, no. I mean, should I be? Tim asked. Keep your options open. Things are pretty tight right now, I thought, with the Smith Love's account. Things were Tim stuttered. I know, but the markets, man. You see, Mr. Prater started. You said if we all worked hard and put in the hours, then look, I gotta make a few calls. Go on back to your desk. You know what, just take a little break, huh? Go grab some coffee somewhere, Mr. Prater said. He went around the block to a nice chain place where the tables were as bare and clean as Mr. Prater's desk. Tim sat down and a barista approached, a young woman with pink stripes in her hair. Hello, I'm Darlene. What can I get you? She asked. Just a tall. Lots of cream, lots of sugar, Tim said. "We have a celebrity in here today," Darlene said, motioning to the table behind Tim, where a nervous woman was staring at her laptop screen. "Big-time journalist," Darlene said. "She looks upset," Tim said. "Who knows?" Darlene shrugged. "Maybe she had family in Marble Springs." The barista went to the upset journalist and they spoke for a moment. When Tim tried to grab Darlene's attention, she just continued on to the back, followed by the frantic journalist. "Rude," Tim said. "He'll never come back here." Another barista took his order again and brought him his drink. He drank his coffee, waiting several minutes for it to cool and the steam to vanish from the top of the paper cup. He was in no hurry. He had a day at the most. The journalist hurried out of the door. Tim didn't notice. "What are you going to do now? You have no job." Tim took a deep breath and swallowed a sip of the coffee, trying to bury the urge to cry. "That all?" Darlene asked. "Yes, thank you," Tim said, jumping slightly. "I wondered where you went. I know it seems tough, but we have to be. We have to thin the herd." Tim started to agree, but stopped. "What?" he asked. He wasn't ready. The clown. He wasn't ready. "Are you?" Darlene asked, winking at Tim. Tim started to sweat. He felt a bead roll down the side of his head to his sagging cheek. "Let me know if you want anything else," Darlene said. A woman from behind the counter looked at Darlene and yelled to her. She ran towards the girl with pink striped hair, but she simply sat down her notepad and walked outside. Tim glanced at the pad. The only thing written on it was his name. Mr. Prater didn't make Tim wait. He knocked on his desk and called him back to the office. He shrugged when Tim kept asking for another chance, another shot. He offered to take less money. He would take what the new guys earn. But Mr. Prater shrugged. "We'll miss you here, Tim." Tim started to say goodbye, but realized he didn't really know anyone. Did they know him? Did they even know his name? At least security waited until he arrived at the elevators before they started escorting him and his printer paper box of paperweights and office awards. He hoped he qualified for unemployment. When he opened his door, Tim barely noticed the man at his desk. The man double-clicked the mouse and turned around. "Hello, Tim." He was a young man, black and wearing a wool sweater. "I came by for this," he said, holding up the mask. "My friend needs it back. They also want me to talk to you." Tim dropped his box and stumbled back to the door. "Why don't you just close the door?" he said, no longer smiling. "Now." Tim did so. The man stood up and patted the chair in front of the computer. "Have a seat. Take a look." Tim's mouth felt dry. He walked to the computer. The man kept his hand on the back of chair as Tim took a seat. On the screen were multiple pages. For such a lonely man, you have an awful lot of these accounts. "They're for networking. You have to have a web presence, right?" Tim asked. "Do you have to use such outdated pictures, though? You have way less hair. You'll probably lose even more, what with the job loss." "How do you know?" Tim asked. "Because you saw us, which means we can see you. Take a look at your pages." Tim went white. "Just because you put your computer in incognito doesn't mean we can't recover where you go. You have an awful lot of friends and they're about to learn an awful lot about you." This is private," Tim said, shaking, water filling his eyes. "No, not anymore. Tim, you have nothing left. You think you're friends? What little family you have will talk to you now. This was private." Tim screamed, smashing the keyboard with one chubby fist, instantly grabbing his fist with his other hand in pain. "We're meeting again, outside, tonight. You should join us," he said. "Why?" Tim asked. "No one sees us. We might need you." "Just leave me alone," Tim said, scrambling out of the chair. "Please, I won't tell anyone. I haven't told anyone." "See you tonight," he said. He waved goodbye with the Lone Ranger mask. He met them. He used a dumpster to crawl over the fence, and as he tried to mount and heave himself over the fence, hands grabbed his collar and pulled him over. "Why are you doing this?" Tim wept, blubbering and wiping his nose on his sleeve. He felt very aware of his stature as the masked figures looked down on him. One tilted his head, eyeing Tim with an animal's curiosity. "Because you can see us," the man with wolf mask said, stepping forward. "What does that mean?" Tim screamed. The figures looked around briefly. "Not so loud," the one in the Lone Ranger mask said. "He's too old," said someone in an old woman mask. "Give him your knife," Wolfman said. Tim recognized the Wolfman's sweater. Behind him, a man wearing what looked like a burlap sack with eye holes crudely cut handed a small steak knife to Tim. He stared at the man's hand. "Take it," Wolfman said. Tim did, swallowing hard. "He is going to try and take it from you," Wolfman said, as a man in a latex old man mask stepped out of the group. "What?" Tim asked. "He's going to try and take it from you. If he does, he will kill you." "What do I do?" "Don't let him," the Lone Ranger said. Tim stumbled back, but a figure moved to block his path. They widened, forming a circle with Tim and the old man in the center. The old man moved around the inside of the circle, hunched down, arms out, and never taking his gaze from Tim, he lunged. Tim screamed and waved the knife, slicing the air in front of him. The old man laughed. Tim pulled his arm in, adjusting his grip on the weapon and wiping his sweat with the other arm. The old man lunged again, slamming into Tim. His hands encased Tim's, prying at his fingers to take the weapon back. They fell, tumbling into the shallow ravine, the cold water sending a surge of shock into his body. The man's mask fell, blocking his vision. He struggled with his mask for a moment. In that moment, Tim took the knife. He stabbed the man. He jerked the knife, but it didn't slide out easily. He collapsed on the masked man, stabbing again and again until his head throbbed. Dropping the weapon, his hands felt numb and his knuckles ached. The man didn't move. Tim could smell the man's final indignity. The others moved to him with caution. "We could use you," Wolfman said. "Do you want purpose?" the Lone Ranger mask asked. "Instead of just blaming ill winds on who they tell you to?" "Yes," Tim said. He felt like he was watching the proceedings from far away, maybe standing on his porch, on his tiptoes to watch himself in no man's land. Handing over the knife? "Keep it," Wolfman said. "You'll need it." "You will recruit another, a woman who saw us," the old woman said. "Are you ready?" asked the Lone Ranger. "What do you know about the hill?" Tyler asked. "Dad said it's not a hill, it's a burial mound," Isaac said. Sitting on the roof, they could see fires burning, roaring from a gaping wound in the side of Houseman Hill. The burning hill acted as a lighthouse, signaling the entire town. Clambering up the rusted remains of the old TV antenna, they could ascend to the roof of Tyler's house easy enough. The orange glow illuminated the pouring, billowing mass of smoke. "I think they punched into hell." Tyler laughed. "Great, Mrs. Christian can find her way home then," Isaac said. They stifled their laughter, hoping Tyler's mother wouldn't find them again. When they were 10, they were barred from the roof after the neighbor across the street called the house, letting Tyler's mother know they were fighting with foam swords on the roof of the one-story rental. "You think I can afford a hospital bill? You think Mr. Dancer is going to spring for a new roof?" she had screamed. As teenagers, the roof became a sanctuary. Even after 10 years in this town, Isaac was the only real friend Tyler had made. He was the only one who knew why they moved to Texas. The only one who knew about their connection to the 726. Tyler's parents worked long hours, sharing a quiet dinner and maybe a TV show before they passed out. He then waited for Isaac's dad to fall asleep in the recliner so his friend could join him. "You hardly notice the smell?" Isaac said. "You get used to that rotten egg potpourri pretty quick, I guess." You might be used to it. I'm gonna buy a gas mask from the surplus. I think it's worse on the old people. My dad barely makes it in the door before he goes to sleep. And I saw Mr. Chambers petting and whispering to the grocery store window yesterday. It was uncomfortable. I bet we're losing a lot of brain cells, Tyler said. At least we haven't seen any weird shit. Hey, breathing in that shit? I'm surprised that's all they saw. The roof underneath thumped 3 times. Fuck, Mom found us. Tyler sighed. I already called your uncle this morning. You and Isaac aren't hanging out anytime soon. Maureen slammed the bag of cereal on the table. 14 years old and still climbing the damn roof. Where's Dad? Tyler poured the contents of the plastic bag into a bowl. Had to take off early. Apparently they're going to put out the fire today, she said. He's going back there? Tyler asked. I'm not too thrilled either, Maureen said. He doing any better? Tyler asked. He's better. He's quiet. That's better, Tyler mumbled. Watch it. I'll drop you off. You'll have to find a ride home. I have work all this week. No problem, Tyler said. Can I grab a bottle for school? Maureen opened the fridge and pulled out a bottle of water. After people noticed the odor and flammable gas seeping from the faucets, bottled water became a hot commodity. Now the company responsible for the blown well distributed it daily to the townspeople, 6 20-ounce bottles per household per day. Last one until they stop by today. Use it wisely, Maureen said. Love you, Mom, Tyler said, saluting her with the bottle. Don't give me that. 14 years old and climbing the roof, she said. She called her husband after Tyler jogged up to the school. She pulled out of the parking lot and onto the street when Randall answered. She watched a single old man walk to the grocery store wearing a Wei-2-era gas mask. Hey, Randall answered. How's everything? Getting ready for work. How about you? Getting ready to help put out the flames, Randall said. Of course, I'd rather do that than work with Fatas all day. Shut up, Maureen laughed. Knowing more about handiwork than half the town, Maureen worked at Dillon Hardware, the eponymous Dillon being a morbidly obese man who inherited the business and had only a cursory understanding of hygiene. They referred to him as Fatas because it sounded French, and he constantly brought up the 2 weeks in college he spent in Paris. Hey, what do you say this weekend we take a drive? Tyler can stay with Isaac. We need the time, Maureen said. I'd like to. I would. Things have been tense. Maybe we go house hunting, Maureen said. Not too far though. I still have work, Randall said. Fuck it, listen to me, your wife. Listen, fuck it, Maureen said. Hart and Sons are going to buy the hill as soon as the fire's out. Still a rumor at this stage, Randall said. No, it's happening. No more fracking, no more work. Let's go. We can't, Randall said. We can't just leave every time bad things happen. Let's pretend we can, Maureen said. She pulled into the driveway and turned off the car, the rotten egg odor filtering inside. Where would we go? If we could go anywhere. I don't know. We can't go anywhere, so what's the point? Something to talk about? Maureen said. Honey, Randall sighed. How many of your friends have gone nuts up there? How many sent home because they're seeing shit? How many died when the well blew? That's them. I'm doing fine. You're not. You're the only one from that shift that made it out, and that's fucking with you. Let's leave. Where? Wanna hop a town over and settle in Marble Springs with those psychos? Oh. You wanna go back to Irvine? Get our old place back? I didn't mean that. You know I didn't mean that. I gotta get back. Maureen said bye, and Randall hung up. When the well exploded, Tyler was terrified he lost his father. He would come to realize that years before, he actually did. He lost his mother too. Losing a child changes a person, but having a child vanish with no explanation breaks a person. The explosion of the Tex Nation well on Houseman Hill brought their pain to the surface. His father's co-workers, the ones present for the explosion, were institutionalized, dead, or missing. Most claimed to have seen things. In the hospital, his father's best friend ranted about wolves or coyotes that walked like people. He died a few days later, then came the quiet. The oppressive silence. The stillness that seemed to tear at his nerves and make him want to scream. It was all reminiscent of the days after William's disappearance, when he lost his brother, and the world lost 726 children. Tyler thought his parents would kill each other, but after they moved, things seemed okay. Not good or normal, but okay. He could live with okay. But the incident on Houseman ended okay. Since the explosion, the air seemed to impact people in different ways. Some carried conversations with people no one else could see. Others would enter trances, with teachers telling students to ignore their catatonic peers until they came to again. People called it the fog. Today, a teacher at school barely managed to stop a fogged student from diving over the stairwell railing. When he turned on the news, there was nothing about the hill, not a minute of coverage. Marble Springs ate up the airways, even months later. He assumed help would come. The National Guard would show something. But as Isaac reminded him, if Ohio was still toxic, why the hell would they bother with Nobility TX? They were alone again, falling apart in the face of the impossible. Coming home from school, Tyler saw his father in the porch swing, gently rocking back and forth and scraping at a small piece of wood with a pocket knife. Tyler saw an old man in the seat, one who aged 20 years in just a few days. "What you doing?" Tyler asked. "Whittling," Randall said. "My grandpa always said it was a great way to quiet your brain." "Not working? You got the day off?" Tyler asked. "Just a couple shifts, then I have to go back. We almost got the fires out. Why do you have to be there? Isn't that something for the fire department?" "I helped run it, so they want me there." Tyler thought about sitting beside him, but he kept watching the small blade hack and shave the wood. "You okay?" He stopped rocking. "Yes, I'm okay." He never took his eyes from the piece of wood in his hand. "You don't seem okay." Randall exhaled and slapped the wood onto the chair. "You have something you're getting at?" No, it's just, I'm worried about you. Everyone else that was up there, they kinda went crazy?" Randall stood up, brushing the shavings from his legs, still gripping the knife in his right hand. "You worried I'm seeing things?" "No," Tyler said. "I'm working up there for you, so I can put food on the table while you get an education. I'm up there so your mom can have a house away from Irwin because there's too many memories there for her. You miss your brother?" He gesticulated wildly with his right hand, a white-knuckled grip on the pocket knife. "Yes," Tyler said. Randall leaned in, his breath hot and sour from the alcohol. "I'm here for you. I don't get to mope around like your mother or fuck up like you. Do you have any idea what I'm doing for you? Do you have any fucking idea? I'm sorry. Get off my fucking porch," he said, pointing the knife at his son. Tyler fell back, catching himself on the porch step railing. Looking up, he saw his neighbor standing by the fence between their yards. The neighbor blurred, like an image coming in and out of focus. No, this was someone different. Someone smiling, standing perfectly still. The figure cocked its head to the side. Tyler lost his breath. He gripped the wooden railing hard. He looked at his father, who squinted at the figure in the neighbor's yard.